Hey everyone, welcome to my kitchen. I'm Kim. So this is probably the first time you guys have ever been in my kitchen, and today we're going to be talking about chametz and Passover and what it means to remove the leaven from your home. There are many different rules and customs regarding this, so we're kind of going to go through the basics here just to help get you to step one of how to remove some of the items from your home. So in front of me I've put here some basic items that you guys might have in your home that are leaven products. So in the Bible, during Passover time, it commands that you are not allowed to eat any chametz, any leavened foods. And the reason for that is because chametz is symbolic of sin and pride. It's something that puffs up. It helps to rise and to make it seem bigger than it is. And we're supposed to eat matzah, the bread of affliction, during this time. And matzah is like a flat, thin cracker, which is symbolic of something that is humble, that is unrisen. And so that kind of dichotomy in this holiday is really important as we are discussing also the concepts of what it means to be a free people. And so when we understand how God is trying to explain to us that Messiah Yeshua, he is the one who was humbled, who was afflicted, who was pierced for us. Matzah is under very strict regulations on how it's supposed to look, being striped and pierced, etc., and how long it's supposed to, the flour and the water are supposed to be mixed before it is ultimately baked. And that has to be before 18 minutes. 18 in Hebrew is chai, is the number for chai, which means life. And so anything that is after that point is considered a chametz, a yeasted, leavened, risen product. And the reason for that is because yeast is present in the air naturally. Yeast is on almost everything. It's on the wheat berries that are crushed to make flour. It's on, even if you have a bottle of grape juice, if you've ever done this before and you've left out your bottle of grape juice overnight and you've come back in the morning and it has that psst, that fizz, well, that's the yeast that was on the grapes in the product that has actually been eating the sugars overnight and created the gas, which is creating the leavening, which is creating the rising, so to speak. So if you've ever seen that, then you know what I'm talking about. And so yeast is naturally present in the air. It's naturally present on all living things, including us, okay? So the issue is not necessarily with the yeast, but with the leavening itself, with the rising, okay? So anything that has the 5 grains for Passover, that is mixed with water, that is past an 18-minute time period. So chametz can be any of these 5 grains that are mixed ultimately with water, and that includes wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. Those five grains. And so anything that is mixed with water and past 18 minutes time is considered to be chametz. Now, some traditions will tell you that you have to even remove the flour of these grains from your house for the accidental, maybe some water got in it, you know, when you're baking, that kind of thing. And if that's, you know, part of your tradition, then go ahead and remove flour from your house as well. But not everybody does that. So anyway, so I'm just going to give you the basics here. So unfortunately today in our culture, almost everything we eat is very processed. And so quite a lot of things have yeast extract in them, or yeast, etc. And they do that to help things rise, so that when you're eating canned goods, it seems like there's more food in there than there really is, things like that. And so when you're checking your canned goods, you need to make sure that there's no yeast or yeast extract in there, none of those 5 grains, because obviously they're being liquid in there, it would all be considered chametz. So the basic obvious chametz is going to be bread or bread-like products like, you know, this hot dog bun, or, you know, flatbread here, or, you know, any actual loaf bread. So all those are obviously going to be chametz. There's no need to even question it. Additional things are going to be like, you know, ice cream cones, or if you have pastas, right? Any kind of pasta is also going to be considered chametz. Any kind of cookies or cakes or whatever. And I even have in here some extra challah bread from our Shabbat meal. So anyways, all those things are going to be normal basic things that you're going to have for Passover that's going to be considered chametz. So what I traditionally do, as you can see here, I have bins, and I typically go throughout my house, go through my cupboards, and I pull out everything that is leavened, and I put them into bins. And the reason I do that is because I need to make sure that I eat all these products before Passover, because you don't want to throw them away or whatever and waste money, right? So what I typically do is I have two separate bins here. I have one bin that's for open products and one bin that's for closed products. And so I make sure that I eat all the products that are opened first, because I can always donate some of these other products to other people or to other ministries who will eat them before Passover if need be, if I'm late and I'm not able to eat all the things I need to. So in any case, that's how I do it. So I go through all my cupboards in my house and I pull out everything that is considered chametz. Okay, I then clean all my shelves, etc. Now, depending on your tradition, some people will kosher their house, as in koshering all of the equipment that they use, their oven, whatever, and that's a whole very deep, long process in some cases. But some people then go ahead and basically foil their whole house, which is basically to put a tinfoil kind of wrapping over their whole house. So depending on how deep your tradition is and how observant you want to be, that's up to you. But anyways, I'm just here explaining to you the basics. And so when you look at all these cookie type products, etc., you will see that they often have leavening in them. These boxes of seashells or whatever, pastas and noodles and all those kind of things, and even chips, right? Chips can have yeast extract in them, or nutritional yeast, or any of those kinds of things, and so you would need to separate those things from your house. You will also find very often that there are a lot of products like this sauce here that has yeast extract in it too. So it's not just a matter of taking out just what seems like obvious bread related products. You also need to remove anything that has yeast extract, or any of those 5 grains that has come in any way in contact with water. If there's any doubt, remove it from your house, okay? So often bouillon will be pasul, invalid for Passover as well, you know, those kinds of things. So you really need to go through your entire house. And for those of us who do a lot of meal prep, sometimes you will have beef or chicken in your house that has soy sauce related products in it, and soy sauce often does indeed have wheat products. So this Kikoman here, right here on the thing, says wheat. So I know already I cannot have this for Passover. So if you have any meat or whatever products in your house that's sitting in your freezer that's already been marinating, whatever, waiting for you to eat it, it's very often that those products may or may not be good for Passover. So just as a note for the future, whenever you are writing on your meat products what this is before you put it into your fridge, just write kosher for Passover or not on it, so that you know and you don't have to ultimately end up eating half of your fridge's worth of meat. But anywho, 2 more important things I need to point out is, number 1, things that are kosher if you are in a kosher home or you're trying to keep a kosher home. The hechsher, which is a kosher symbol, lets you know if something is meat related, dairy related, parev, which means neither meat nor dairy, or kosher for Passover. So if you look at the label, you will see that there is a P right here. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's a P right there, and that lets you know that this juice here is kosher for Passover. So if you are in a strict observant home, they're going to remove anything that doesn't have a P on it, that doesn't say kosher for Passover, even if it doesn't seem like it has leaven or whatever in it. So depending on, again, your guidelines, whatever your rabbi has said to you, whatever the rules are that your community follows, you know, be observant to that. But I wanted to let you know that the P next to any kind of hechsher is related to Passover. Parev, the word parev, which means neither meat or dairy, will say actually P-A-R-V-E. The P is related to Passover. That's number 1. Number 2, you can at the store buy kosher for Passover matzah and not kosher for Passover matzah. Obviously, this just means that when they were baking it, they passed the 18-minute mark, and now it's no longer kosher for Passover, okay? It doesn't meet strict rabbinic guidelines for Passover. So when you are purchasing your matzah, make sure it says kosher for Passover. So that's kind of the basics of Passover. And so like I said, I remove all the things in my home that are even remotely related to wheat-related products, which is typically the main one you'll see. But another thing that Ashkenazi Jews, so Eastern European Jews, is they go a step further and they remove everything that is known as kitniot, and that means basically legumes. So beans, whatever related products, and they remove all of those because sometimes those products can be confused with some of the 5 grains like corn, soybeans, whatever. Also, those items have a tendency to puff up as well when you cook them. Sephardic Jews, Spanish Jewry, does not do that. So they don't remove those products from their home, or refuse to eat them rather. Because even if you're Ashkenazi, you can actually leave kitniot in your house. You just can't derive any pleasure from it, meaning you can't eat it personally. You can't consume it, you can't whatever. But let's just say you have pet food that has, you know, rice and corn in it, whatever, and you give it to your pet. That's perfectly fine. You can have it in your home to give to your pets, whatever, but you personally cannot derive any benefit from it. So kitniot is kind of a special category that I know Ashkenazi Jews are always jealous of Sephardic Jews. They're able to eat some more things on Passover. But anyways, so if that's your personal tradition, then you're going to want to remove as well a lot of those kinds of items as well. And I'll put a list here on the screen so you can see all of the things that it applies to: rice, corn, beans, lentils, you know, soybeans, etc. There's a whole list. So if that's part of your tradition, then maybe you want to separate those things out and put them in a special spot in your house so that you don't accidentally eat any of those things for Passover, or put them in a bin like I have here and just kind of put the lid on them. You do not have to destroy them or get rid of them from your house. You just cannot eat them. Chametz, however, needs to be destroyed and needs to be removed from your house completely. So another aspect of Passover and removing the chametz is that the day before, everything before Passover, the morning before Passover, everything has to be removed from your home, and it has to be burned, and there's a ritual that goes along with that. And searching for the chametz in the night before is traditional. It's kind of a fun thing the kids like to do. So the parents, as is tradition, hide 10 pieces of bread or whatever around the house, and the kids with their light and their candle light and their feather, as they would have done in the old days, goes and tries to collect the chametz from the home. So don't forget where you put that. But anyway, so Passover is a big time for cleaning, and we often talk about spring cleaning. Is probably where this tradition comes from, because the family would clean the whole home, remove anything that is chametz or anything that is leaven. This is an important tradition because when we understand it spiritually, a spiritual chametz is symbolic of sin and pride. Then we want to make sure as believers we remove that from every corner of our homes, every corner of our hearts. So as you're doing this process throughout your home, recognize this is a spiritual process. This is something that really needs to be dedicated to the Lord, because the more important removal of chametz is the one that you're doing in your spiritual life. And so God helps us to connect doing physical things to represent spiritual truths, okay? Because people need symbols. That's just a common thing. We think, well, what's the point? You know, okay, if I say a prayer and I remove all the chametz from my spiritual life, why do I need to remove it from my home? And everything in the world has symbolism. You know, as we say, so in heaven, so on earth, you know, that concept that the things that we do on earth, even the small little things, have meaning, have significance in the Shemayim, even in the heavens. And so we need to not discount the commandments that God has given to us because we think we know better than God, who gave the commandments in the first place. So we need to be obedient to what He has asked us to do. But the symbolism of removing the chametz is important. And so traditionally you'd go throughout your entire house, you'd clean your whole house, and you would remove chametz. Dust is not chametz, okay? Chametz is anything that, again, is a leaven product from those 5 grains that has in any way been mixed with water. So, and past the 18 minutes point. which if you don't know if it's past the 18 minutes point, then you're going to have to throw it away or get rid of it or destroy it. So remove it from your home because it's not supposed to be there. So I get a couple questions about flour, like I said, and a lot of people remove the flour from their house altogether. And some people do not because they think, okay, it's okay. So maybe, you know, a way for you to kind of decide how you feel about that is maybe you keep the flour that's packaged, but get rid of the flour that's not packaged. Whatever you choose to do that makes sense for you, that's fine. Yeast, however, actual yeast that is in active dry yeast or bread yeast or whatever that comes in containers like so, is not considered chametz. Yeast is just yeast until it actually mixes with the water, with the other ingredients. It is not considered chametz, and so you don't need to throw away your yeast, okay? So, but in all these things and all these questions, if you have a local rabbi, feel free to ask your rabbi what his or her opinion is regarding these things. So I just wanted to give you the basics regarding Passover, regarding chametz, regarding how to remove the things from your home. So you do absolutely need to check every label in your house and make sure that the products that you are eating are kosher for Passover. So the first step, and I usually do this a couple months before Passover, is I start to separate these items, as I mentioned, the items that are not kosher for Passover, that are dry goods. And I try to clear through those as best as I can, because going through the fridge and the freezers, you can't put it in a separate bin, let's say, on your counter, because it'll all go bad. Now, if you want to dedicate one shelf on your freezer, etc., and say these are the things for Passover we need to start eating now, or one shelf inside your refrigerator, that's a good practice as well, to start to separate the items, because it will take you a while to go through all these products. Believe it or not, so many things have chametz in them. So you really need to check them appropriately to remove them from your home, okay? So there are quite a lot of other traditions, but these are the basics that you need to kind of start with and decide what tradition you want to hold to. Do you want to hold to the Ashkenazi or Sephardic traditions? And if you're new completely all together, I would say hold to the Sephardic tradition first. Get your feet wet to try to understand how everything is going, so you don't make it extra hard for the people who are living with you, etc., and just help them to understand that this is important spiritual representation of Messiah, who was humbled, who was pierced, who was striped for us, that by his stripes we are healed. And so we recognize that his humility has brought us life. And so we want to humble ourselves in the same vein. And so sometimes we have to go through a Mitzrayim, we have to go through an Egypt type process in order to come through and recognize that we are free people. And so this is a very, very deep significance, which I don't have super time to get into on this video. This is just about how to remove the leaven from your home. So anyway, so that's kind of the basics, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. If you're from a different tradition and you want to share with people, you are more than welcome to do so also. This is a very big process, which again is why it should be done months before, just so you can start to help to clear things out in your home. And it also helps you to, get your home in order. Start to clean your house room by room, and tell your kids and your family, don't eat anything in these rooms, so that you can begin to do your best to remove all the chametz from your house. At the end of the day, just do the best that you can, okay? Nobody is, saying to you, okay, you have to be Mr. Clean and, everything has to be 100% perfect. We're not perfect, and that's why there's a prayer at the end nullifying all the chametz that's in your house. So if God forbid at the end you find out, oh, I left this giant box of Chex Mix and I forgot all about it or whatever after Passover, hopefully not, but then there's a prayer that you say before Passover to nullify all the chametz that's in your house, so that you don't derive any benefit from it. And if you do find it after the fact, you do need to destroy it completely, because you cannot have derived any benefit from any chametz that was in your home. So do your best to remove everything that you can, to clean your home, to remove everything spiritually and physically, so that we can keep the command of the Lord with as much kavanah, as much heart's intention, as much holiness, as much kavod, glory, weightiness as we can, to give God the respect that he's due. Okay, Yeshua celebrated Passover. This is a very, very important time for believers as well as for Jews who are yet to become believers. So make sure you say a prayer for them as well as you're cleaning, that they would be able to humble themselves before the Lord and God would reveal himself to them. So anyway, that's just the basics of removing leaven from the home. I hope that that has made sense to you. Remember the 5 grains: wheat, oats, barley, spelt, and rye, and anything that has mixed with them in any way, shape, or form with water, remove that altogether. If you have just the loose grains, then that's between you and your rabbi to discuss. But anyway, just pray to the Lord, ask him to help you during this process and to remove the things that are unholy in his sight, so that we can arise, amen, on Shavuot, which is Pentecost, of which is a holiday in which you bring to the Lord leavened loaves. And there's a difference between being leavened with the Lord and being leavened with sin, because leavening from sin, the leavening that Satan gives to us, the pride that puffs us up and makes us think we're right and we know everything, is what we're trying to remove. But there is another level of rising that Hashem does for us, that God gives to us, when he gives us koach and strength and power, and helps us to be able to accomplish things in our day. And so when we come to Shavuot time, the next holiday, 50 days, right? Penta being 50 days after Passover time, we are acknowledging that through our humility, God helps us rise. He's the one who gives us the real ability to rise and to be able to receive all of his Holy Spirit, to be able to do the work of the ministry. And so that connection is extremely important as well. And if you want to know about any more connections between Passover and Shavuot, I'll link a video right here. You can go and click on that for next time. So God bless, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.